Hello and welcome to our Rangers Review special big interview as we speak to club historian and author David Mason and Ibrox hero Marvin Andrews. Believer in Blue, Football, My Life, My Faith was launched at New Edmiston House on Sunday, and I'm delighted to have the guys with me today to discuss the book and Marvin's life and times. Gentlemen, how are we both?
Great.
Very well, very well.
Yeah,
Good stuff,
looking
good
forward
stuff.
to a new season.
Well, glad to hear you're both well. Hopefully, that optimism lasts slightly longer throughout this campaign than it has done in previous seasons. David, we'll start with yourself. Could you
Mhm.
talk me through the process involved in writing the book? Why did you feel now was the time to put Marvin's story into black and white?
Well, to be honest, it wasn't my idea, it was Marvin's idea. So we worked together, obviously, in hospitality, at Ibrox and a match day. And Marvin said, look, I'd like to, do a book. He'd had one done before when he was at Wraith Rovers, but he said, I think there's so much that's happened in my life since then that I think it's time I put it down. And I said, yeah, I'll be delighted to help you, Marvin. I didn't know if he was asking me at that time, but I said, yeah, I'll be delighted to help you. And then thereafter, it was a case of sitting down, having a chat over the phone sometimes, and just talking through things to work out the structure of the book, obviously, as well. But as I generally do in my books, I like to get behind the character. I don't like just talk about football all the time. So for me, it was to find out what Marvin was like as a person. What his background was, where he came from, how he got to Scotland, how he got involved in football, and how he ended up at Rangers. And of course, he ended up a lot of other places after that. But it was really to try and find out what this guy who's sitting next to me was all about, because he's clearly a very popular chap.
You must have also known Marvin from his playing days, and then he's also come back into the club in recent years. Even with that depth of knowledge that you had, did you still learn things about him and think, I didn't know that? That's interesting. We can do that with that story. And then throughout your time speaking to him, you must have picked up so many other aspects of, I say, Marvin's life and times.
But I only knew Marvin as Marvin of Rangers Football Club, and obviously Helicopter Sunday was huge in that. But as I say, it was important for me to understand why he is the way he is. An important character, and even in terms of his physicality. Talking to like Bob Malcolm, for example, Bob says that when he took his shirt off, he was chiselled. And Marvin doesn't particularly work out, I don't think now. But so that was all back to his background and whatever. So it was important to try and understand Marvin, and then really on the back of that, and then back understanding it, I started to piece together the whole jigsaw of his life and his football career.
You mentioned two big words there, David: helicopter and Sunday, and I think it says quite a lot about Marvin's Rangers career. That's the first chapter of the book, and Marvin says in it now that players don't usually find their careers defined by a single day, but when it comes to Helicopter Sunday, that's probably the ultimate Marvin Andrews day. We'll come on to the game in a wee bit, Marvin, but if we go back to, obviously, the build up to that was the knee injury, and you then deciding that you were going to play, returning to action with Rangers. Can you just recall that story from the injury to those discussions with the medical staff? You also had to go for scans, and you spoke to various experts, and you then had to have the discussion with Sir David Murray, with Martin Bain, and Alec McLeish, when you say, I'm going to defy medical science and I'm going to play football for Rangers.
All right. Well, as I said, the what made Helicopter Sunday so special, obviously, apart from us winning the league on the last day of the season, obviously the build up to it, obviously with me, with my knee injury, the knee injury that I sustained, which is ACL, is one of the injuries as a professional footballer or any personal professional in sport. It is an injury that you get. Once you get it, the minimum you're out for is 6 months to 9 months, sometime a year. Some people even take 2 years to even recover after damaging the ACL post operation and recovery. So obviously it was a injury that back then obviously was very acute. A lot of doctors were still trying to understand ACL injuries and this type of stuff. So because obviously my background of most people know me because of my faith and my belief in God and all this different stuff, I decided that, I'll put my faith and my trust in God, that God can heal my knee and I can come back, faster than normally that people, thought I would have come back. So obviously prior to that of me getting my knee injury, there was I think a couple of months or a couple of weeks before that, Stefan Kloss damaged his ACL. And a lot of people were saying at that time, Marv, pray for him and heal his knee and stuff and that. But obviously, as I said, Stefan Kloss wasn't that type of guy when it comes to faith and belief in God and stuff. He was a great goalkeeper and a great, person overall. But that wasn't his type of belief. And then obviously that same injury come and happened to me a few months later. And as I said, we went and do different scans and stuff for the doctors. And every specialist, every doctor say, Marv, if you want to continue playing, you have to take a surgery. And as I said, I went home, I prayed about it, and I felt that God didn't want me to take a surgery. And obviously, I came back and told, obviously, Ian McGuinness was the doctor back then. I told him that, I'm not going to take a surgery. God is going to heal my knee. And then before you know it, you almost get a heart attack with me telling him that, because it was one of those things that, he couldn't believe what I was saying to him, because the extent of the injury and how bad it was. So I decided that, put my faith and my trust in God. And as I said, 5 to 6 weeks prior to that, I came back, and obviously I was back training and in training, and obviously everybody was amazed, all the physios and stuff like that. But I think what made it so acute and everybody was so concerned, the thing with your ACL, it is one of those injuries that you don't have to be playing football for your knee to collapse. You can be walking down the stairs, you can just stand up from sitting down, and your knee just collapse on you at any time. So I didn't have to be playing high intensity football for my knee to collapse. And obviously with the type of game that we play and the way that I play, loving to go and jump and win every header possible, obviously they definitely thought that it's only a matter of time before my knee collapsed under me. But obviously by God's grace, it didn't happen. Prior to that, obviously, I had to speak to David Murray and obviously all the sponsors and all the main men of Rangers back then. And obviously, they gave me an ultimatum where I had to sign a disclaimer to take full responsibility for my decision while playing for Rangers in that lead up to Helicopter Sunday.
The club had also... Sorry, David, on you go.
Yeah. Can I just add something in there that was one of the things I discovered about Marvin. It was, obviously he was keen to get back playing again, but there were a lot of other pressures on him as well. He missed the League Cup final, but it was very important for him to help Trinidad and Tobago qualify for the World Cup. So the 6 to 9 months would have taken him out the qualifying matches, and they were in a good position at that stage, and of course the league. So it was really so crucial for his whole career as much as anything else. So Martin was under pressure, but it was a big coll on his behalf.
When you walk back into that Rangers changing room, Marvin, and you tell your teammates, I'm going to defy that advice, I'm going to play, I'm with you for these final few weeks. Can you talk me through that scene? How did you do it? Did you have individual conversations? Did you have like a team gathering and announce it to the squad? And what was the reaction?
Well, to be honest, every one of my teammates were actually literally baffled, because they couldn't believe I was actually going to play. Because a lot of players heard about ACL injuries. Obviously, one of my best mates, Alec Ray, he suffered ACL injuries in his career. So he was thinking to myself, Marvin Andrews is a loony. he's absolutely crazy. There's no chance, he's going to actually play. So I think a lot of the players were more surprised, and they were more obviously in wonder, how the hell is he even standing? Because obviously I started to train and do little, physical activity. I started off by myself, then I gradually start training with a team. From training with a team, bounce games against the team and then against other teams. So at every step of the way, everybody was still thinking in the head, how the hell is he playing? You understand? Big Dado Peso, was a great character in the team back then, he had knee problems as well. You understand? And obviously he was struggling with different, pains in his knees. And he was thinking himself, how am I even playing? You understand? He's asking me every day, are you getting pain? And my knee was really swollen still. You understand? So when people looked at it, and just to clarify, because back then a lot of people thought I was against surgeries and against doctors, which is completely so false. You understand? It's just at that particular time, I believe within myself, by the grace of God and by the advice from God, that I would not take a surgery at that particular time. And as David said, apart from helping Rangers win in the league, also to help my country qualify for the first ever World Cup in the qualifiers at that time as well. So it was obviously a big, as I said, a big decision for me, but most of my teammates were more surprised. The physios, obviously, when I'm doing my little exercises in the gym back then, everybody just looking at me and just shaking their head, thinking, what is going on with this guy? No way he's right. Because it was all building up for me coming back to play my first competitive game for Rangers, which obviously it ended up to be Celtic. Which was which is the biggest games in the club history. We were 2 points behind Celtic, playing Celtic at Ibrox, and it was all building up for that. So despite I am under pressure, people who believe in God telling me forget God, take a surgery, all the players, even the Celtic players as well, were discussing among themselves, there's no way he's going to play, there's no way he's going to come back and stuff. So it was a big, big debate. And I say to people, I think my knee is one of the most famous knee in Scotland, because front page and back page of that entire remaining of that season, all the talk was about Marvin Andrews' knee. So I think obviously it was a lot of pressure, a lot of belief and mind and stuff like that. Because as I said, they even phoned my mom to try to convince me to go and take a surgery. Back then, yeah. My mom called me crying on the phone, Marvin, please listen to the doctors and all this other stuff. And I said, Mom, don't worry, God is going to heal my knee. Everything is going to be all right. So that is all the ins and outs and the build up to obviously me coming back, obviously in the game against Celtic, which was the first year of the split. And as I said, I didn't even expect to play. I expected to be on the bench because I didn't play for 6 weeks. I was just training and playing bounce games. So I thought to myself, there's no way Alec McLeish would take that risk with me at a dodgy knee in one of the biggest games in the club history.
Alec obviously did take that risk. The Celtic game doesn't go to plan, obviously, and it's widely assumed after that Celtic will go on and win the title. But it's then in an interview after that game that you stated, keep believing. That then becomes the catchphrase for the following weeks. We are now 2 decades on, and I assume people still shout at you in the street, Marv, keep believing. Did you have that phrase planned? Was it just an off the cuff thing? Where did it come from? And can you
Honestly,
believe all these years on it's still a catchphrase for you?
I think what triggered it is obviously with me coming back after my knee injury. You understand? Because for me, when doctors say I will not even walk or last 1 day or 1 minute, for me to come back, go through all that training sessions, and then come to end up playing against Celtic. I played 83 minutes. Obviously, as I said, the end result, we end up losing the game 2-1. So went on to the interview. They interviewed me and it was like, Marv, well done on you coming back from such a serious injury in such a short space of time. We don't know how you do it, but, well done to you. But on the other side of that, do you think is the league over? Celtic are 5 points clear with 4 games remaining. What do you think? And I just looked at them and I said, it is not over until God says it's over. Keep believing. And that is where it all started off with the keep believing phrase. I'm sure a lot of Rangers fans thought I was crazy because there's no way we could win the league from that position because Celtic was such a strong team. Back then, I think they had 3 home games out of the remaining 4 games. And as I said, and I just said that, I think the next weekend Celtic went, I think they lose either Hearts or Hibs 3-0. And Hibs obviously 3-0, and then before you know it, it was all on again. And that is where it all started, that keep believing phrase. And as I said, we are 20 years come next year, May, of Helicopter Sunday. And as I said, I think everywhere and anytime Rangers are going through a difficult time, that phrase still come back. Remember Big Marv say, keep believing.
Did you have that faith? Did you keep believing on that day, David? Now, what's your memories of Easter Road and one of the most remarkable title wins, if not the most remarkable, that Rangers have ever secured?
Well, despite what Marvin said, I'd lost the faith really in that sense, because I felt we'd beaten Motherwell so easily, beat them 5-1, I think it was, in the League Cup final. They had struggled against us, and I thought, with the incentive that Celtic have got going to Fir Park, they're just going to go right, roll over the top. And I always felt we might get the result against Hibs at Easter Road, but for me, that was why I thought there was more than a degree of pessimism. And I think especially at half time, and that was one of the things that Marvin talked about, and some of the other players have done as well, at half time for them to go in and know, which very rarely the teams nowadays know what's happening elsewhere when they go in at half time. But the guys there knew that Celtic were 1 up, and that gave them the result. We still had to score at Easter Road, so that was a crucial moment as well to make sure that they kept believing. And Alec McLeish, Marvin had a big role in that, with his teammates to say, look, guys, we've got business to do here, let's do it. And I've covered that, the importance of the speech that Alec McLeish gave to the guys to just fire them on and obviously get the result round. But to be honest, I think that's what made it so good for everyone, is that most people didn't expect it. And do you know what? Celtic didn't expect it, which made it even better.
Is there one aspect of that day, Marvin, that stands out? There's so many famous images. There's the ones of you celebrating. There's Barry and Alec jumping each other's backs. There's also fans at the radios. There's Big Ache on the touchline. Is there one thing that stands out for you, just of that, say, the day that almost defines your football career?
Yeah, well, obviously, when they, obviously the final whistle blow, obviously there's that great photo of me on my knees thanking God. Is that was just a relief of my faith, my belief that it all came together in the end at the last minute, where you always said, and obviously the Bible tells you never give up. Don't give up on your dream. I read the great Nelson Mandela said it. A dreamer, a dreamer is a person who never gives up. You understand? And you just never give up on your dream whatsoever. So, and that is what, when it all come together, I fell on my knees and I was just crying, thanking God, everything. And I think a Rangers fan run from the stand and hugged me on the floor. I think that was in the front page of the Sun, of the Daily Record. And as I said, it was just absolutely an unbelievable moment. But as I said, there's just so much things in it when obviously the final whistle, just never giving up. Because when we look at it, David just said it, many people didn't believe before the game. After 83, 84 minutes, your belief will probably even lower. You're thinking no chance it's going to happen now. It's only a matter of time. And then from nowhere to miraculous moments, happen with, Scott McDonald scoring those 2 goals. Obviously, when you look at his equalizer, it's just absolutely unbelievable. That could have go anywhere. It ended up in the top corner. Then the second one, deflection, loop over, and end up in the bottom corner as well. So it just shows you that, never giving up on your dream. Most of all, as I said, with my faith, my God, and I keep saying it, the things that are impossible with men are possible with God. And that was a day that was impossible, because there's nothing Rangers could have done apart from winning our game. You understand? We had no bearing on what was happening at Fir Park. You understand? And this is what happened. Obviously, it reached to the point where the helicopter was already heading to Fir Park, of how close it was. And it just shows you, your belief, never giving up, never quitting until it's over. And that's what that means in a nutshell.
Chris, if I can just come in there, we had the launch at Edmiston House, and I interviewed Chris, Marvin and Alec Ray on the stage, and we we did. It was done quite well with the club, in fact, because we had some video footage. And during the spell when we actually covered Helicopter Sunday and the presentation of the trophy, I looked across to Alec and Marvin was getting quite emotional about it. So again, it just, although we know how important it was to the club and how it was to many people, but even 20 years on to Marvin, it's still such an emotional moment.
Where does it rank for you, David? Now, you've obviously seen your fair share of Rangers title wins. We've obviously just before that we had the game against Dunfermline at Ibrox. Since we've had 55. Where how do you almost place Helicopter Sunday in the list of great and significant Rangers title triumphs?
I think it's got to be up there, to be honest, because I remember when we beat Aberdeen 2-0, 1991 to win the title when Walter had to put together a team of invalids, basically, an Aberdeen team that were flying. And the atmosphere in Ibrox at that time was amazing. And obviously when we beat Dunfermline as well, celebrated down to Kilmarnock. And, that the 6 goals there, which were so important to us. And again, the excitement of that, because the 2 games are getting played simultaneously and news of goals coming through. So that was a huge. But for me, in terms of, I think the surprise and the impact that it had, because we got a chance to see the impact on the Celtic players, the Celtic fans, and Martin O'Neill, and having interviewed the likes of Terry Butcher, and don't forget Terry Butcher was the manager of Motherwell at the time. It just came from nowhere as far as Celtic were concerned, and I think that's probably why it probably makes it my most memorable, I would say.
You mentioned at the start, David, about trying to go behind the story, trying to find out what makes Marvin tick and look back, not just at his Rangers time, but his entire career. There's a lot of detail in the book about his early years, going to live with his grandmother, life and his upbringing in Trinidad. Can you both just talk me through, one from David, your perspective, like finding out those types of details, and Marvin, just how much that upbringing shaped you as a person?
I think from my perspective, as I said at the beginning, I like to get behind people and understand what makes them. And I think what became apparent from Marvin had to work for everything that he got, essentially. And he was obviously built with that determination. And I think these were the 2 elements that really came through. And of course, when he found football, I mean, the other thing that I found, which was quite surprising, and I know everybody was surprised about this, is that Marvin said he was shy when he was younger. This is the guy who stood up on the stage. In fact, every stage, I meant to get him singing the other night there, actually. But every stage you get up to, he sings. He's certainly not shy nowadays. But I think that confidence grew in him through the determination and through the need to work for everything he got. And when he got the opportunity to progress in football, he grasped it, and he's grasped it at every other stage all the way through in his career.
Is that how you would sum up your life, Marvin? Now, take us back to the times when you were a shy Marvin Andrews. How did that develop?
Yeah, well, as I said, it all started. Obviously, I grew up with my grandmother most of my young age before she passed away when I was 6 years of age. But she taught me a lot of things. Obviously, work hard for what I want, believe in myself, respect my elders, and stuff like that. And these are the things. Always pray to God first thing in the morning, last thing at night. It is something that I still do, after all these years she been passed away. And as I said, one of the things, and as David said, the determination to work hard for whatever I want. A lot of time obviously I grew up with one of my aunties. Obviously, when my dad left to go to the United States, he left me with one of my aunties. And we had to obviously carry material up a hill, which to actually build a house, because there was no road for any trucks or something to go up to offload the material. So either sand, bricks, all those, I had to tote it up the hill. You understand? And so all of that, obviously I did it willingly, because obviously it's for my aunt and it's for my own good of building a house for us. And obviously I did that, and that was like my training. You understand? Going up, I was barefooted, whether it's raining, the sand is heavy, the bricks, and I go up and down, toting up all that sand and brick up there with my brother, water, everything we had to do. So all these things were part of training for me, and it was part of the process that I had to go through help me to build a mindset that I had, obviously, when I came over, to Scotland and stuff like that with opportunity. Obviously, it started at Red Rovers and stuff like that. But these are the main contribution. And as I said, the determination to never give up, to never quit. And that comes from my belief in God, because as I said, one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is that with God, all things are possible. And this is something that I believe in strongly, that once you have God, anything is possible for you to achieve, whether it's in your physical, financial, your health, whatever possible will. And that is one of the things that I hold on strongly to, where I never give up until it's actually over, and is one of my main things that I hold on to as the core of my life. Because as I said, it was from my granny that, she always taught me to believe in God, to pray to God first thing in the morning, last thing at night. And as I said, that is one of the elements that I still carry today, even in my late 40s.
You mentioned there when you arrive in Scotland and you get the chance to really progress your football career. I didn't realise until reading the book that Steve Archibald had a hand in you actually arriving in Scotland. How you talk us through that process and how the move came about and your early. I believe there's also an experience in the Hamilton Palace nightclub that you share in the book as well.
Yeah, yes. So obviously when I first came to Scotland in September 1997, obviously once I came out, obviously felt the cold weather of September in Scotland, which is still summertime for most Scottish people. And I came and I felt the cold weather, and I thought to myself, wow, this is a cold place. And obviously met Steve Archibald. And obviously, Steve Archibald is the one who gave me the background of, Glasgow and the rivalry between Rangers and Celtic in Glasgow and all this different stuff. And he mentioned it to me that, he's taking me to Motherwell, because obviously that was where my first trial was. It was at Motherwell Football Club. And obviously, Alec McLeish was the manager back then. And yeah, it was a great time. I didn't know who Steve Archibald was. He gave me, he told me he was an ex-player and stuff like that. It's later on when I did the research and speak to people that told me how good a player he was, playing for Barcelona and all this different stuff. So was a really lovely man, very down to earth, very, welcoming. It was one of, the first thing, obviously, he welcomed me, with great open arms and, to Scotland. And, so it was really, really good. And he said to me that, "Man, we're going to take you to your hotel," which they call a B&B. I didn't know the club what B&B was back then. And as I said, I went and stayed with a lovely family in Motherwell. Obviously, they looked after me really, really well. And obviously, it was a great start. But as I said, the weather was another way where I could have easily shrinked and decided that, oh, I'm not for this, and just go back home because of how cold it was. But my determination to stay here, to grind it out, even though the weather was really, really cold for me, because I come from Trinidad and Tobago, where they don't get under 16 degrees at any point in Trinidad and Tobago. So obviously to come here, where September, October, it's starting to get a bit chilly. Obviously, it was a very humbling experience for me, but also it was also a character building process for me as well.
As you say, well, talk about Hamilton Palace here. That's when Marvin found out that birds don't have feathers.
Yeah, but so as I said, the Hamilton Palace stuff was obviously they was the Motherwell boys. I think they had a team night out and stuff like that. I was like, man, we're gonna go out and the birds, and I'm like, what's a bird? They call them a bird. It's actually gears they call them birds in this part of the world. And I was like, all right. And we went to Hamilton Palace. I think there was 3 floors. I think there's a disco and either pop music, and then the top is R&B and hip hop. So I went to the 3rd floor, it had R&B and music. Very sticky floors. The floor was sticky as well. So that was my first experience, a night out with the boys. We went on the train, took the train into Hamilton and stuff like that. But it was a great experience for the thing. Obviously, there was a lot of players, at Motherwell back then, was really, really good. What's his name? The striker, man. The Coyne, Tommy Coyne, and the other one, Coyle, the left foot. Owen Coyne, yeah, Owen Coyne and big Tommy Coyne. So they were the strikers at Motherwell at Motherwell back then. You know, and obviously great guys, great sense of humor, good laugh. So I had a good time with the boys and them. Obviously going out in Hamilton Palace for my first experience of Scottish nightlife.
To continue on the Hamilton location theme, one of the quotes I liked in the book was Barry Ferguson when he said he first read about Marvin potentially signing for Rangers. He didn't think it was going to be that great a bit of business. David, the history obviously shows otherwise. In that summer, difficult times for Big Egg. They'd had success, very much a rebuilding time after that, different situation at the football club. How was Marvin perceived in that summer when big turnover? A lot of free transfers coming in as well. How do you think Marvin was perceived within the Rangers support, and how quickly did he perhaps banish any doubts or win people over if he had to?
Well, I think, Alec McLeish doesn't get the credit that probably he deserved, because the club was going through some austerity, I might use that word, where we had to cut back on the overheads. And so a lot of great players left at that time. We just had to slash a couple of years prior to it as well, slash the wage bill. And they didn't have a lot of money available to go and buy people, so they had to try and seek them out early on. And Marvin's name obviously come up as someone who would be, a really useful guy in the pool, if not in the first team. Marvin, right from the start, had the determination to be in the first team. He didn't go along as a pool player. But I think because he came from what might have been called an unfashionable club, but remember that Livingston got to third place in the league and won the League Cup. So they had a handy squad as it was. But Barry probably echoed the thoughts of many people when Marvin joined. But of course, and although Marvin knew that himself, he knew to try and go out and demonstrate to people that he was a guy who could hold a place down, and did that very, very quickly. The very early training sessions, he showed it to the extent, and this is one of the things I found out from the players, not just the Rangers but other places. People didn't like to have Marvin in their team or against him, because he was when he was going to win the ball, he won the ball. So many managers said to me he wasn't Beckenbauer in his style, but there was nobody would beat him in the air, and through that determination, he gradually fought his way through. And of course, it was such a vital part of the team at that time. Barry changed his opinion very, very quickly, and I think it's a testament to Marvin, how Marvin became accepted by the team. That Barry was very keen to do the forward in the book as well.
Obviously, Barry being one of the big personalities within that squad. Marvin, obviously, Dado Purcell was a big personality. You had obviously Big Ek as manager, likes of obviously Shota Arveladze, Alec Ray, you mentioned earlier on, Fernando. When you go into a squad or squads that have got those type of personalities and those type of characters in it, how does Marvin Andrews, the characters, how does he fit into that group?
Well, obviously, I came in, obviously, I wasn't, because I'm not outgoing. I try to get to know people first before, people get to know me as well. And I came in, obviously, was, had a good laugh. And as I said, it was just a whole new group of players coming together, apart from, Bob Malcolm and, some of these guys who've been there through the team before. So I think it was 7 of us who was new: myself, Nacho Novo, Alec Ray, Boom Song, all of the, 7 of us who came in, and it was absolutely brilliant. But as I said, I was more always in excitement of coming to Murray Park, driving up to Murray Park and watching the gates open for itself. And I'm thinking to myself, these are only things you see done people who are very rich in Hollywood or LA, the gate and stuff opening for itself. And I was just in awe of that, because back then, as I said, everybody wanted to be at Murray Park, because, as I said, it was the number one facility when it comes to football training grounds. No other team in Scotland had that type of facility. So it was just an honor for me just to walk through that gates and to get into Murray Park and train. And as I say, I just gradually get my way about and learning to know the guys. As I say, Big Dado Perso, Fernando Rickson was just a crazy guy in the dressing room. Always so funny, always looking to do pranks and stuff like that. And as I said, Barry didn't come in until I think it's the January window of that time. So obviously the first few months of I was just getting to know, some of the new guys, Alec Ray and, Boom Song and stuff. And then obviously Boom Song left, and then Big Kariakos came in, and we developed a great relationship as well. So I just gradually, get to know myself. Obviously Jimmy Bell, when I first walked in and met Jimmy Bell, and, a guy who have a very, dry sense of humor. You think he's serious, but he's actually joking. So I have to just learn the ropes of, meeting all these people at Murray Park. And as time go along, obviously, I just, bide my time and training and stuff. Because I think for the first 4 or 5 games, I didn't really start. I was on the bench until, obviously, the gaffer decided that, Marv, this is your opportunity, and I grab it with both hands.
It was a squad that's obviously assembled, guys from different backgrounds, from different countries, a very multicultural group that came together. Big clearly had a part to play in that in terms of man management and bringing everyone together. Chapter 10 in the book is titled Bigotry and Racism, and you touch on your experiences. Why was it important for you to address those factors? And you write very openly about the abuse that you have received, others have received, but that squad, if you like, sums up the good when people come together for a common goal, and that's a lesson that we can take, not just in a football sense, but that's a life lesson as well.
Yeah. As I said, it was, one thing, because what I say to people, when Marvin Andrews came to Scotland, I was well received by every family and every person that I met. You understand? The people that the families that I stay in the B&B with, even when I went to Raid Rovers, I stayed in the B&B for 5 years. You understand? The couple, Linda and Harry, they became my adopted mom and dad. You understand? So they looked after me. There wasn't no, obviously, looking at, skin color or anything. They just treated me as a human being. And as I said, you have that in all walk of life. But in between that, you have the odd person who might be racist, who want to make racist remarks and stuff like that. But the difference with Marvin Andrews, and the thing about it with me, is that, we used to have a lot of banter in the dressing room and different stuff, and guys, and I laugh off most things, you understand, because I grew up on the streets of Trinidad and Tobago, that if you didn't have a thick skin, you couldn't hang out on the block or on the streets in Trinidad and Tobago, because everybody giving one another talks and, back and forth and calling people names and stuff. So I come from that type of background, so I know how to give and take in that aspect. But obviously, you always have people who want to go overboard, and obviously they hate you for whatever reason, and different types and stuff like that. So I know how to deal with that. Like, guys, when they make, jokes and about skin color and stuff, most of the time I laugh it off, and, I didn't have a problem with it. But what I said to them is that they may meet another black person who may take that as an offense. You understand? So it's all about people with different characters and how they see things and stuff like that. But as I said, in the dressing room, we all, had, different backgrounds. We came from different places. Nacho wasn't, was Spanish, full Spanish, and then you're listening to trying to talk his English and stuff, and we all accepted each other, and how we will banter and jokes and stuff like that, and it was just all good, and good camaraderie and good team spirit, and that is what helped us to get on, obviously, for Helicopter Sunday to go on and really never give up to win the league in such a time.
Chris, one of the things that Marvin talked about as well was how different it was being a Rangers player. And he said when he played with Livingston and went up to Aberdeen, and he was just a Livingston player, but as soon as the word broke, they had joined Rangers, he found he was getting booed by an Aberdeen fan. So he realised that, to be a Rangers player, that, there was a degree of antagonism that would follow him around.
What do you think it says, David, about Marvin's successes and his was it Helicopter Sunday, but other successes in his career and his personality, that all these years after leaving Rangers, he's also now working back at the club as well, that he is still as revered and is liked, and he has his own very unique place in the very storied history of Rangers Football Club. Now, what does it say about what he achieved and everything that he is and everything that he still stands for?
Well, a lot of players were in that team, of course, in that running, and we haven't seen so much of them around the stadium, although obviously any player that plays with Rangers should be maintained as popular. But I think the big thing in Marvin's case is he is a larger than life character. You can hear Marvin before you see him. Generally, he's lively. As somebody said to me fairly recently, he brightens up a room, and I think that it's that character which was so important in Helicopter Sunday as well, to keep the place going, and that's continued thereafter. So it allows him to build upon the very great career he had in football as well, and in particular the Rangers. So I think it's all down to him. It's really down to him and his character, as I say, backed up by his career rather than the other way down.
What does that mean to you, Marvin? Now you've outlined coming from such humble beginnings. You've had to work so hard for everything that you've achieved. Your faith has also played such a big part in that. What does your Rangers legacy, if you like, what does that mean to you, that people are now to come up to you in the streets, they see you at matches, they watch you singing online, you've conducted some of the wedding ceremonies. You do have quite a special place in the affection of the Rangers and the Rangers fan base.
Yeah, well, it's thing I've said, a lot of people don't have the faith and belief in God like I do. And there's a part of the Bible where the Bible says that God say, I will bless you and make you a blessing to others. And that is one thing I try to always do, is that try to be a blessing to other people. You understand? A blessing, it could be an encouragement, it could be a word, it could be, just giving somebody a hug or greeting somebody or telling somebody good morning or good afternoon in different ways. I get a lot of people message me on either Facebook and stuff. They say, Marv, I was feeling down. I just looked at your video and I'm all happy again. You understand? So it is in so much different ways that, you can be a blessing to somebody. It's not only, you can be just a blessing to somebody in a financial way. You can be a blessing to somebody by just being there for them or giving them an encouraged word when they might be feeling down. So this is the way I look at things, is that, God said, I will bless you and make you a blessing. The Bible says, I'm the light of the world. What happens when light comes in? It shines. You understand? So these are the different things that I take from my belief in God, and I try to portray it in my everyday life as it ought to do. Because this is the purpose I'm alive. Is why God have me in Scotland, as I said, to play for a club of such magnitude as Rangers is a great honor for me. And I say that to people. I didn't know how big Rangers Football Club was until I actually started playing for the club. Because I just thought it was a big football club in Glasgow, and that was it. Not knowing it's a worldwide, organization and club. And supporters club in every part of the globe you go, you'll find a Rangers supporters club. And as I say, it's just amazing. And I feel very humble and very honored to be part of the history of such a great legacy of this club, because so many great and amazing players have passed through this club, so much great achievements that has, this club have achieved. And obviously it just shows of, what an amazing club. And I thank God every day that he blessed me with the opportunity to play for a club of this magnitude. And I feel very humble and very honored to be part of that.
Have to give you the final word, Marvin. What would your message to the Rangers fans be right now?
The message to the Rangers fans right now: in life is not how you start, but how you finish. Sometimes in life we get the most horrible starts we may get. Things may start terrible. You may go through terrible times in your life, but at the end, you'll have the last laugh. So at this moment in time, things may look very turmoil, things may look upside down, but I'll say to every Rangers fans, life is not how you start, but how you finish.
And there's a book.
On that note, I shall wish you both all the very best with the book, David. Hope it goes well. Thank you very much for your time. David Mason, Marvin Andrews, thank you for joining us on this Rangers Review big interview.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bless you all. Keep believing.
Thank you.